Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Karina. Welcome to the Maturaexpress. It's going to be a session about grammar. Tonight it's going to be about present tenses. Have fun. Well, once again, a very warm welcome in front of your screens. After a long summer break, at least for me, I probably have to reintroduce myself. As I said, my name is Karina. I'm working for the English team, obviously. And tonight we are talking about present tenses, which sounds easier than it actually is, I guess. Good. If you out there are ready, I am as well. I'm gonna quickly talk you through the forms of both tenses, which is easy, very straightforward thing. That's one thing that we learn quite early in our school career, I suppose. I will point out a few things that I sometimes hear when talking to my students. I've also heard a good many English exams, be it, I don't know, Matura exams or the infamous Paragraph 5 Prüfungen and stuff like that. Sometimes mistakes occur in the usage of present simple and present progressive tense. I will point out what I thought was relevant in the topic, and then there will be a couple of sentences for you to think about. So it's a classical gap fill. It's an either or thing, present simple or present progressive, with the option that both tenses are correct, but with a slight with a change in meaning of the sentence. But we will discuss that later, or I'll talk you through that later, depending on how much active participation there's going on. Good. So the formation of the present simple and the present progressive. Present simple, very easy. You have your Signalwörter that you diligently learned in Hauptschule, which is not always, well, I'm not, people when they talk don't always use Signalwörter. They are a quite good hint. My example sentence features a usually, which is the classic example of a Signalwort in English, but as I said, people don't always use them. So we have to go for opinion, not for whether or not there's a Signalwort. But in any case, my very intelligent sentence. I was in England at the time, so I thought, that makes sense. We usually buy our stuff on Oxford Street in London. That's a habit we always do, because Oxford Street is the greatest shopping street that there is in London, arguably so. But anyway, so you have, of course, diligently learned your 3 verb forms. For the formation of the present simple, you need the first one. It doesn't change, at least not much. You have the rule, the famous hijit, plus third person s. So if it is a hijit, a pronoun, obviously, that substitutes the hijit, or a name in the third person singular, then you add an s to the verb. My example sentence doesn't do that, but if you had a Mr. Peters instead of the we, or if you had a she instead of the we, it would be we, it is we usually buy, but it would be he usually buys, or Mr. Peters usually buys, whatever. Her stuff on Oxford Street in that case. In the negative forms, we need a do not, a does not, a don't, or a doesn't. In oral English, we use the abbreviated forms most of the time. I think we would almost always resort to don't instead of do not, unless we want to emphasize. You hear it sometimes in, if people prohibit stuff, so do not even think about doing this and that, and so on and so forth. So if you have the long form in oral English, it very often emphasizes something, like making the prohibition stronger, whatever. In any case, in oral English, we would probably resort to the abbreviated form. We don't usually buy. What is important is that the third person s rule does not apply for negative sentences or for questions. You hear that sometimes, or I hear that sometimes in my practical experience as a teacher. He doesn't usually buys is wrong, even though the argument is that, well, Miss Teacher, there's a hijit, but it is a negative sentence, it is a negation, so the hijit plus s rule does not apply. The same holds true for the question. the question doesn't make an awful lot of sense, because if, you know, you suffer from a very high degree of forgetfulness, if you can't remember whether or not you buy your stuff on Oxford Street normally, do we usually buy our stuff, is like, as a question, it doesn't make sense, because you should, you know, remember. Makes more sense talking about a person. Does he usually buy his stuff, or does she usually buy her stuff? Whatever. In any case, you start the question with the do. Something that we do not translate in German, we just need it for the formation of both the negative and the question. The buy remains in its normal, basic, unchanged form. Do we usually buy? Does he usually buy? Do they usually buy? Whatever. As I said, it doesn't make an awful lot of sense in the we form, but as it's there. I was so proud of my Oxford Street sentence, and then, well, the uses are quite simple, or so I think, at least for the present simple. There's a like standard set of rules where we use them. We have the time indicators, what I named or labeled as Signalwörter beforehand. Something that happens on a regular basis or doesn't happen on a regular basis, but then it is still, if you never go swimming, then it is a habit. It regularly happens that you don't go. So that is also kind of a habit kind of thing. Never, usually, sometimes, always. What else do we have? Frequently, seldom. What else is there? Well, you know all of them anyway. Time indicators that give us information on how often something happens, kind of also linking it up with point B, describing habits and likes and dislikes. If you never go to the cinema, then it is a habit not to go to the cinema. Or if you express a certain dislike for, I don't know, ice cream. I guess there are people who don't like ice cream. Then that's a habit, like you don't eat ice cream as a habit. I never eat ice cream. I usually eat ice cream on Mondays. I sometimes eat ice cream with my best friend, whatever. In any case, it's a habit. It's something that you do or don't regularly. So the German word for habit is Gewohnheit, and you probably, hopefully know that. So whenever, like in your exams, you might need the habits and likes and dislikes thing in the introduction, because you have to introduce yourself in the beginning, depending on how extensive the whole introduction scenario is or should be. That depends on your trainers, on the interlocutors, on the examiners at the end of the day. But it could happen that you have to talk about your habits, because they want to get to know you better. Then there's also certain topics, sports, for example, or nutrition and health, where you highly likely have to talk about your eating habits or your habits in terms of sports. So that's when you need the present simple. Point C is probably, well, you know that, but the rule is sometimes not that, you know, clear in your minds. Well, that actually makes more sense when you know the rules for the present progressive, but still, usually we use the present progressive, so I'm jumping the gun on the whole thing. You use the present progressive when stuff happens at the moment of speaking, so the stuff that you can see here or whatever. This rule does not apply if you have two consecutive actions, one after the other, under the precondition that one has to be finished before the other one can start. Like she gets up and leaves, nobody can get up and leave at the exact same time. That's not really possible. So if you have two short actions in the present tense that happen one after the other, under the precondition that, you know, one has to be finished before the other one can start. She gets up and leaves. You read that quite frequently. You hear that in series on television as well. Might happen at the moment of speaking, but is two short actions. That's why you need the present simple. Facts, something that is generally accepted to be true. We all know that. All the physical facts, all the geographical facts, stuff like that. The sun rises in the east, that is a fact. That's true all the time, every day. So that's why we use present simple tense. Whole different story when you like sit on the top of a mountain and watch the sunrise, but that's something different. As soon as you talk about, or as soon as you deliver a statement that is commonly accepted to be true, then you use the present simple because that's proven, that's a fact, it's science sort of thing. Schedules and timetables. Schedules are Fahrpläne, timetables, Stundenpläne. My train is at 9:00 a.m. That is a schedule. The train leaves with or without you. That's a fact. You have to be there at 8:50. But if you're not, the train leaves without you. So everything that runs according to a schedule is not only true for yourself, but for the general public kind of thing. A schedule is a set thing. That's why you usually refer to such things using the present simple. Same holds true for school, for example. You'd say that your maths lesson starts at 8:50, even though it is 8:49 now and the whole thing is about to start, but still it is a timetable kind of thing. So you deliver the information using the present simple tense, even though it starts at the moment. But then start is a different category of verb. Grammar is actually quite difficult.
Oh, it's fun. Come on.
Grand. That's because that leads me to point F. Verbs of possession, senses, emotion, and mental activity. That's probably the most interesting part. They usually don't take ing forms, so they don't take present progressive forms. And if they do, they change the meaning of the whole sentence. Sometimes only slightly, sometimes to a greater extent. I'll show you an example in a second. So possession would be, for example, belong. You would probably not say this car is belonging to my dad, but you would say this car belongs to my dad. First of all, because it's a fact. Usually people tend to own cars for like a longer period of time. It's a habit kind of thing. Well, depends on your dad's driving skills, I suppose. But same holds true for emotions. That's one that you can, well, like it's easy to give an example. You all know the famous, or the advertising slogan that McDonald's became famous for. In English, the pun doesn't work in German, or the whole concept doesn't work in German. Any ideas? I guess you know what I am referring to. McDonald's says, "I'm loving it," which is grammatically, well, debatable. Because the fact that you have a verb that expresses an emotion, a very strong emotion at that, in an ing form is kind of, well, they are violating grammar rules kind of thing, because we always are taught, or we always have been taught in school that love and hate, like dislike, as verbs, as like emotion verbs, don't get ing forms. I guess that's why the McDonald's slogan works so well, because, well, I'm loving it. First of all, it's quite catchy, and it's kind of something that we are not allowed to do. Doesn't work in German. What is it in German, actually? Ich liebe es, no?
Gerade.
Oh.
I'm loving it.
Yeah. At the moment, yeah. And mental activity, that's my example. Mental activity is think, the prime example, and all the synonyms that there are for think. There is, so just for you to bear that in mind, there's a difference between what do you think and what are you thinking about, or like with or without the about. You are asking for two different categories of information on that. So think used in the present simple means something different than thinking in the present progressive. What do you think is like asking for general opinion. If I ask my great background, what do you think about my, I don't know, my new, I don't know, hairstyle that I don't have, then I'm asking him for an opinion, a set opinion. Opinions usually, like opinions can change quite quickly, but still they don't change, or they don't normally change from 1 second to the other. So asking opinions about certain topics is present simple. What are you thinking about would be, think of an example. Oh yeah, you sit in class and instead of paying attention to your maths teacher or your English teacher or whoever you have to pay attention to, you're staring out the window. I think we all know that, teachers and students. People do that every now and then.
You're partner.
Or that. I'm pretty sure we had that as well. So you would get this, and what are you thinking about at the moment with your head in the clouds kind of thing from your teacher? So what are you thinking about is asking for something that is going on in the brain of the person at the moment, but is not necessarily asking for an opinion. So in what are you thinking about, or what are you thinking about, is not really asking for opinions. What are you thinking could also be kind of a reproach. Again, he says something, you can't see him, but there's someone, and yeah, that's him. So whenever I say him, then I mean him. You know him probably. He says something that I totally disagree with, that I think is the most stupid thing I've heard all day. So
the sun rises in the west.
What are you thinking? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? So what are you thinking, or what were you thinking? It also works in the past tense, considerably more often used in the past tense. I think that would be a typical line of the parents, like, and what were you thinking when you did this incredibly stupid thing? Or at least I'm pretty sure parents say that sometimes. So what do you think is asking for general opinions on a certain topic? What do you think about Austrian politics? What do you think about the whole discussion that is going on about the prevention of plastic, for example? Do you have any ideas? Stuff like that. That is the present simple. What are you thinking about is, you know, your head in the clouds idea. What are you thinking? A million. Well, how does the German saying go? A million for your thoughts. No, a kingdom for your thoughts. That's it. And what are you thinking, or what were you thinking, is kind of the reproach kind of thing. Was hast du denn dabei denkt? So ungefähr in that direction. Dialect always works. It works much better than standard German. Anyway, that was, oh no, let's quickly recapitulate the uses. So we have the time indicators, but as I said, I'm not a big fan of sticking to Signalwörter because, as I said, people don't always use them. They don't always apply to grammar rules, really. So you can't rely on having a Signalwort in your sentence. So you might just as well learn the rules. Habits, likes and dislikes, because they're all kind of habits. If you utterly dislike reading, then it is a habit, like you have the habit not to read. Actions in the present that take place one after the other. She gets up and leaves. She finishes dinner and decides to go for a walk, whatever. You read that quite frequently. Facts that are generally accepted to be true. Some examples will be, or will feature in my example sentences a little later. Schedules or timetables, because they are universally applicable. They are not only valid for you, but for more people. And verbs of possession, senses, emotions, and mental activity. You know all of them, I'm supposed to. Yeah. I'm pretty sure students are still taught all those nice verbs of possession and so on in school. Same game as before for the present progressive. Very easy to form, really. You need a form of to be, so am, is, or are, the verb plus the ing form. There's nothing special, like no s's to add anywhere. It's just really am, are, is, verb and ing form. I chose a sentence in the third form this time. She is watching her favorite soap on television, so she's watching, I don't know, gute Zeiten, schlechte Zeiten, whatever. She isn't watching because she has something else to do. She isn't watching her favorite soap, she's doing homework. At the moment, like two people talking. Let's give the she a name. She's Nina. We're asking about the whereabouts of Nina, and I'm pretty convinced that she is watching her favorite soap on television again. The person I'm talking to knows that this is not true. No, Nina isn't watching her favorite soap. She is doing homework. Good girl. And is she watching, this time also the question sort of makes sense. Is she watching her favorite soap on television? So forming the present simple is really only about, the present progressive, sorry, is really only about switching around the components. So she is watching is the affirmative sentence. Is she watching is the question. So you're kind of only turning it around a little bit. Yeah, pretty easy to form. I am watching, you are watching, he, she, it is watching, and all the plural forms have are. You are watching, we are watching, they are watching. So pretty easy, really. nothing to say about that.
Should they do one on their own in the chat? Should they complete an example sentence in the chat?
Not yet.
Okay.
They're coming.
Good. Sorry.
That's okay. I could have deleted. Actually, I could have deleted all the hints, like, but I wanted to make it easy for them. So the uses, quite straightforward. You all know the first example. Action that is going on at the moment of speaking. Same thing as I said earlier. In school, we very frequently get taught that you need some kind of signalwort, like the listen, the look, stuff like that at the beginning of a sentence. But then I'm pretty convinced that people don't talk like that all the time. So, or at least I don't. So something is going on at the moment. If I got up now and walked over to the window, looked out of the window and told you what I see, I would probably do it in the present progressive. There is a man walking down the road. There is a girl walking her dog. There is a couple of kids eating ice cream, stuff like that. So it's going on at the moment, and I'm basically describing what I see. I do that using the present progressive. So the present progressive is the tense that brings the action a little closer to us. So it's basically a description of what is going on at the moment of speaking, like what does the speaker see, hear, perceive, whatever. The next one is interesting because I think it can vary, or it can be applied to your exams quite frequently. There is actions going on in the world, like in my example sentence, the temperature on Earth is rising. We can't really see it, like we can feel it probably now being stuck in the middle of a massive heat wave, but we can't see it, but it is something that first of all is going on around us. Everyone is talking about global warming. We know that it's there. It is a fact kind of thing, and then it is also a fact that we are concerned about. So we very frequently use the present progressive to express concern about certain topics, to express anger as well. I don't know, I see him buying 5 bottles of like bottled water, plastic, and I'd be like, come on, why are you always buying plastic? There's glass bottles as well. So I could do that using the present progressive because I want to show that I am upset about that, because we all know that we should avoid plastic for as much as possible. So I can express concern and I can express anger using the present progressive. And I can also describe things that are going on in the world without stating them as a mere fact, without simply saying the temperature on Earth rises, which would work as well. But then it is a fact. By using the present progressive, the temperature on Earth is rising, I'm kind of expressing concern and kind of like, well, guys, that's not good. We should do something against it. Action has taken place over only a short period of time, so that's exceptions to rules. I'm working in London over the summer. The fact that I use I am working, and over the summer, of course, but basically makes it clear that this is not my permanent job. I normally work in Innsbruck, but as I don't like Innsbruck in summer, I decided to go to London for 2 months or something. I am working in London over the summer, but only over the summer, so there's a time limit. Like there's a beginning and there's also an end. I'm doing this at the moment. It is a longer period of time, like the whole summer is quite long, but in my life it is only a short period of time kind of thing. And it is an exception to like the rule. Normally I work in Innsbruck, but at the moment I am working in London. Oh yeah, here we have to express anger. Those of you who are notoriously too late probably hear that sometimes, provided that you speak English in your free time. I'm always waiting for you. You're always coming home late. That's what mums sometimes say. So to express anger and to bring it closer to the speaker, because the ing forms are usually the forms of the verbs or the tenses that express emotions to a certain extent. I'm always waiting for you is kind of, well, the person who talks to you in that case is a little angry because waiting isn't always the nicest thing. Well, to express a future event, but that's probably more future tense, or the usage of future tenses than present tenses really. You have a future event that runs according to a plan kind of thing, you usually have a date, a time, or a place given, and it has to be like a quite fixed kind of thing. We are flying to Spain in June. Well, now June is quite far away. I obviously did this sheet at some like earlier stage, but let's say it's March. I don't know. We are flying to Spain in June, so June is not that far away. And usually you need to book stuff for, like, you need to book flights and so on. So it is something that is kind of quite fixed in the quite near future. So it's not like we're not talking about a period of time like about 10 years or something. But that's something for whoever does the stream on future tenses. Good. Is the audience ready for some?
Ready. I guess so.
You guess so. Good. Good.
If they've gone offline, we'll see.
Well, then I do the sentences for myself because I like grammar so much that I.
You're a very interesting person. Then you say you don't like grammar, you like grammar.
I was trying to be sarcastic. Grammar is like, well.
Yes, people are online.
Grand. So, you know the game. It's a classic gap fill. You have sentences where there are the verb forms missing. You have to decide whether or not it's present simple or present progressive. There might be sentences where both is possible, but then there is a slight change in meaning. Or if it doesn't necessarily change the meaning, then it might at least, have a kind of, add some kind of tone to it. First one is quite straightforward. You just punch in the solutions into the chat if you have them.
Right, put it a little bit up because your head is in front of a word.
Oh. I don't want to give away too much of the next sentence. That's why my head is in the picture. So now my head is out of the way, I hope. So, shush, the English word of pst, the English version of pst. The teacher, blah, 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 to explain the grammar. So that's what I'm doing here. Blank. Beep.
So type it in.
If there is something, if you have any ideas, the question is, like in an auction, I have to offer the teacher tries or is trying. That's what I have to offer. In real life, I would now say type in what sounds better, but then that's probably not valid here.
They are slow typers.
Yeah, obviously.
I get the microphone.
Do that.
Yes.
So now he, the person that I was referred to as he, is talking as well.
Yes, Dominic. Now I'm on sound. So type it in. We're going to have a look. At least someone was online a few minutes, 2 minutes ago. We'll give you another minute, otherwise I'll complete it. Yes. Yeah. Otherwise we'll sit here until 12 o'clock.
Yeah, and that's not,
And we could enjoy some gin tonic right now.
It's just like way too hot for sitting here until 12. I totally dig that in winter, but not now.
So give it a try, What's the solution? Shush! Be quiet! The teacher blank to explain the grammar!
Which is a sentence that no student would ever say. Now that I think about it, like, well, no. Just no.
Okay, I think that was the minute. Give us the solution, I cannot wait.
Well, it ain't that hard really, no big surprise. The solution is trying. As I said, no student would ever say that, but you have a very ambitious neighbor. The person next to you is kind of like, psst. The teacher is trying to explain the grammar, and that's something that I don't know, so I kind of have to listen. So the whole thing is happening at the moment of speaking. That's why is trying is the solution. If it was present simple, you'd have to be careful about the spelling. Is trying. Yes, Marco got it. Marco got it. Marco gets a plus. If it was present simple, as I said, it isn't. Please be careful with the spelling. I had people spelling. I don't know if I should do that, like deliberately committing typos, but that's some versions of the present simple form of the verb that I sometimes got, which gives me creeps. So don't do that. Good. Sentence number 2. I have it problem with the size here.
Yeah.
So sentence number 2, he blank too loudly all the time, and especially on trains, this to be very annoying for other travelers.
So give it a guy. Give it a try.
That was a mix of give it a guess and give it a try now. Give it a guy.
Give it a guy.
So
He blink so loudly all the time. And especially on trains, they blink very annoying to the other travelers.
yep.
So type it in. Hit it!
Don't be confused by the 2. I have this strange habit of always adding a 2 to the verb just to make sure that it is a verb. Some people don't like Wortalten, so I suppose I might just as well point that out to them.
In the meantime, we thumb Russell.
No, we don't.
Yes. Question. For example, my girlfriend is eating and is watching TV. Is this true? But the action is also now at the moment. Which time should we choose? Now I got it. Depending on the context, if you say my girlfriend is eating and watching TV, you drop the second is there. You just go for my girlfriend is eating and watching TV. She's doing that right at the moment, right now, in this moment, in you talking to someone, and the question might be, what's your girlfriend actually doing? Then you go for that.
Yeah.
But for example, when you say usually on Tuesdays or Mondays, she watches TV and eats. If it's like a habit that usually on Mondays she does that, then you'll go for the true action or for the fact.
The fact thing. You could also have it as a habit, like on Tuesday evening, you and your girlfriend, you have your pizza nights, so you watch Game of Thrones and eat the pizza takeaway. That would be a habit then, because you do it every Tuesday. That's one of your, the relationship things that you do. But if you are describing what she's doing at the moment, if you are on the phone to your mum and your mum asks for your girlfriend, then you'd be like, oh, well, Lisa is watching Game of Thrones at the moment. I can't interrupt her because it's her favorite show, and she's eating takeaway pizza, she's having popcorn. You can also, as Dominic said, you can drop the second is because there is no other person or other subject interfering, so you don't have to repeat yourself. So Lisa is watching television and eating a pizza, or she is eating whatever. As I said, if you make it a habit, if Tuesday night is your pizza Game of Thrones night, then use the present simple, because
I think you can give us the solution.
Like,
yeah, super good.
Pizza and Game of Thrones always work. He speaks, this is one of the clear cases where you need a third person. He speaks too loudly all the time, and especially on trains. Well,
Marco God is speaking, and it's also is speaking possible if you complain about it, if you express anger. Yes.
True.
Yes.
Marco is right. Marco is very good.
So
Marco
both.
paid attention to what I said. Mm-hmm. Proud of him.
Yves
is speaking.
Marco receives a Fleiß Plus. Yeah. Fleiß Plus, you get it here online for free for you.
He is speaking too loudly all the time, works as well. Usually we get quite annoyed by people who do that, or at least I do, if someone's speaking on top of his or her voice on the train or on the bus. I always find that quite disturbing, especially because usually the stories that they have to tell are utterly not interesting. But, so Marco is right. He speaks too loudly all the time as a fact, or he's speaking if I want to express anger, kind of thing. I don't really like it. And especially on trains, this is very annoying. This is being very annoying would not, that's totally unnecessary. So we stick with the present simple here. The next one is interesting more for the vocab than for the sentence, because I think it's a very straightforward sentence, but sometimes people get confused. Like, I have had this sheet for basically all of my teaching career, and I know that this sentence sometimes causes problems only for the argument part, because people obviously can't get their head around the argument thing and the fact that it's kind of a false friend, but not, yeah, well, kind of. So, any suggestions? Listen, you even have a signal vote. Listen, they, blah, 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 an argument.
So complete the sentence. In the meantime, we thumb wrestle.
No, we still don't. It's too hot for any kind of
Sport?
action. Yeah. It's too hot for any kind of physical action. That
We
involves-
lip sync for our legacy.
Sure. That's what I always do on screen. Any solutions?
Come on, Marco, give us a solution.
We're totally relying on poor Marco here.
Well, Michael is online as well.
Grand. Does Michael know the solution?
We are talking to you. Yes. You get another flight plus. We'll let Nerida know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Ooh, we have an answer. Marco and Michael. See, you just need to talk to them. Go for our having.
I would, in this case, never dare to disagree.
So, and now tell the truth. Did you look it up online beforehand?
Well, the fact that I have used these sheets forever doesn't mean that they're online, so they can't be cheating at the moment. It does not work.
Good.
Listen, they're having an argument. Obviously, like me and him, we are sitting in this room, and there's people in the other room, and I tell Dominic that they're obviously, like, you can hear them as well, but that they're fighting to have an argument, means streiten, kind of thing. So listen, they are having an argument at the moment, again, because our neighbors fight all the time. Listen, they are having an argument. We can kind of listen to them. The next one's quite nice. Paul and George normally
Blank.
at the reception of the hotel, but this week they blank in the restaurant. They have to help out.
Your head is in the way again.
I know.
So give it a good shot right now again. Michael and Marco. I say Marco, you say
Michael.
Polo.
Ha ha.
Come on. This could be so nice with a gin tonic.
Oh yeah, it could. Stuff like that. Always.
Hopefully you are having one. Oh, now.
Marco and Michael, no. They're supposed to work, not to drink. Any ideas?
I shouldn't promote alcohol on here.
No, you shouldn't.
Okay, we've got from both work and now working.
They are such good kids. And I'm terrible at typing.
I think you can just use
I
the
need a
thingy.
secretary.
Can you write with it?
No.
Okay, so it's just PDF.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know why I can't use it.
Well done.
Great. So we have a rule and an exception. So usually they are the receptionists of the place. They're doing an apprenticeship at the reception of a hotel. But as it is peak season in terms of tourism, they are working in the restaurant because some of the waiters suffer from, I don't know, a heat stroke. I don't know, something. So now they have to help out, and this week they are working in the restaurant. It's an exception to a rule. Normally they're receptionists. Now they're playing waiters kind of thing because they have to help out. The Mr. Peters sentence, a very sad sentence actually. Mr. Peters always blank us with our problems, but at the moment he can't support us as he blah 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 a lot of problems himself. To support, you probably know the word, but I am au contraire to grammar. I'm a big fan of vocab, so you can always point out additional words that can help you. Support, unterstützen in this case because it's a verb. But I assume you know that.
Marco wrote helps. Do you think like helps for both blanks? Blanks means looking.
Well, we just take this as an answer. I would, of course, totally agree with the helps here. He helps us with our problems. That is a fact. Mr. Peters has always, I don't know, he's a teacher in your school, and he was always the one or he has always been the one that he could rely on. Whatever problem there was, Mr. Peters was the person to ask. So that's a routine, that's a habit, so helps is definitely correct. Both are possible in the second one. Helps or is helping.
Have.
Oh, hoppala. Oopsie daisy. He has, and he is having. Second try usually works better. As he has a lot of problems himself is more the matter of fact kind of voice in your head. He has a lot of problems himself. There is not much compassion, there's not much feeling, not much sentiment in this statement. It is a fact he can't be there for you because he has some things to sort out in his own life. So he has is the more emotionless kind of approach to the whole thing. He is having a lot of problems himself means that you acknowledge that there are some bad things going on in his life and you feel with him and you're kind of like, well, poor guy. So the ing form again conveys a bit more of a feeling of a message kind of thing. You acknowledge that there is something going on in his life and you understand that he can't help you because there's stuff that he has to help, that he has to sort out himself. So he has a lot of problems himself. Is correct, is a statement, is a fact. He's having a lot of problems himself. He is kind of like, well, poor guy. And I totally understand that he can't solve my problem now as he is having problems himself. So both possible in the second one. I would say that only helps is possible in the first one because it's fact. Mum to her daughter. So that's a direct speech now. Mum talks to daughter. You blank always lose things. You need to be much more careful. Easy one, I think. The question also think about the sentence structure, like where would you put the always? Sentence structure is always kind of tricky or something that people struggle with.
So put the always and the verb into the right order.
Sentence structure.
And in the meantime, we are always losing. You are always losing.
I would totally.
And Michael wrote always loses.
Michael has to be careful. Michael is exaggerating the rule with the he, she, it. You're talking to the person, you're not talking about the person. So loses would not work because the mother is talking to her daughter, so it's a dialogue. So there's no there is no third person S involved. You're not talking about someone, you're talking to someone. So if...
Oh, and pay attention. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, the lose and lose, double
O.
Yeah,
the classic.
and you wrote losing with 2 O here, and it's just...
We're gonna sort that out in a second, because that's something, as I said, I'm vocabulary junkie, I love vocabulary, so the lose and the lose plays into my hands here. I would say that you are always losing is better than any other solutions, because well, if you have lost the 5th phone in a row and your poor parents always have to buy you replacement phones, there will be the state where your parents get kind of upset about the whole thing. So nobody would just say, well, you always lose stuff, but I don't care. That's not what parents do. So it is more likely that your mum would be upset if you lost the 5th phone in a row. So you're always losing things, you need to be much more careful. It's the more likely version, I guess, because if you keep losing your stuff, your mum will always bring in some kind of emotion into the conversation. So I would, in this case, go for the are losing. As I said, you audience out there, be careful about the third person S. As soon as you talk to a person, or to more persons, doesn't matter. As soon as it is direkte Rede, you never need a third person S. We don't have something like Höflichkeitsform in other languages. You have that. If those of you who know, I don't know, Spanish, French, Italian, you might confuse the rule here, because there is some kind of Höflichkeitsform where you address people in the third person. In English, you don't do that, so you never have a third person as soon as you talk to a person. There's Anführungszeichen, there is quotation marks. So, no third person S. Good. Oh, I love vocabulary. Lose is grand. Lose is the verb that we need now. What's wrong with my S? Lose, lost. Verlieren, the verb to lose something, etwas verlieren, only gets 1 O. and so do the forms lose, lost, lost. So everything, like you can hear that it only has one O in lost and lost. You don't, to be fair, in lose it sounds as if, but no. So the verb verlieren only has one O. There's also the second version that gives you a double O. Exist as well is an adjective, and this a loose tooth, for example, means that your tooth doesn't, you know, it's not like solid anymore. It's kind of almost falling out. Loose clothes, for example, is if you wear size M but run around in extra large clothes, so it would be loose.
Screw loose.
Yeah, the screw loose. Oh yeah, oh yeah. There is this grand. I think we use that in German as well. No, eine Schraube locker. Yeah, we use that as well. Sometimes I have to think about Redewendungen in German. You have a loose screw, means that people are not quite right in their heads. So loose is locker in terms of like items are loose or your tooth. You go to the dentist and be like, hey, look, loose tooth. People wear loose clothing, so also advice that you sometimes read in travel guides if you are, like, if it is really hot somewhere, and you should wear loose garments because otherwise you're even more hot. If you wear skin-tight jeans nowadays now in 35 degrees, that's, you know, the loose would be something that is advisable now. And you have a loose screw, which means that you're slightly crazy. Be careful about that. But anyway, your exams will be oral, so to be fair, there is no difference in pronunciation really, so you would say loose and loose. Like. Okay, next one, 7. Today my kids blank the Museum of National History. Easy one, I think. Also one where you can think about the context, kind of, not only grammar rules, but about a real situation where people would say stuff like that. Any ideas?
So, hit the keys. And in the meantime, we thumb wrestle.
We still don't. Can you guys?
I get you to do that.
No, you don't. Can you guys type a little bit, you know, faster? Thank you. Because otherwise I have to thumb wrestle. There we
Visits.
go. I like this. Visits.
Michael.
Michael.
And Marco says visit as well.
Okay. Well, first of all, we have to clarify the third person S thing again. Michael, in this case, be careful. My kids is plural.
No, it's visit and visit.
Ah, okay.
Sorry.
Sorry. He can't read, like, sorry. My apologies in his name, because he can't read. I, in this case, would go for... That's why I said go for content, go for meaning. I don't know, even if you have kids who are very interested in culture and history and arts and so on and so forth, hardly anyone in this world goes to the museum on a regular basis. And especially not, you know, kind of every day. So it is something special. So I would definitely go for the are visiting in this case, because I don't know, it's a regular school day, it's Wednesday, and it is one of those trip days, and mom talks to neighbors, and it's kind of like, well, the kids aren't in school today because they are visiting the the Museum of National History. First of all, kids hardly ever go to the museum on a regular basis, really. I mean, stuff like that happens, but then there is people who go to museums on a regular basis, but then the whole sentence structure would be different. Like, you know, I have a subscription to the Museum of National History because I visit once a month. Then you would have a present simple because then it's a regular thing. But the way the sentence is structured, starting with the today, kind of makes it an exception to a rule that is not mentioned here. But as I said, kids normally go to school or play with friends or whatever. But now they are visiting the National History Museum. So I would definitely go for inform in this case, because it is an exception to a rule that is, to be fair, not mentioned here. But kids don't always go to museums. They do. They go to school and have trips where they are going or are visiting the National History Museum. Sentence number 8. If you have questions, let me know. If there's something that I say that doesn't make any sense, which happens quite frequently, let me know. Question number 8 is sentence number 8 is a question. Blank the kids blank laugh about the joke. We're in school maybe, or at home. Somebody told a great joke. The question is...
Are laughing?
That's what I'd say as well.
You make her so happy.
Yep, that's true. Finally someone who understands my sentences. My students never do.
Maybe you've got a particular sense of humor.
Well, are the kids laughing about the joke? I don't know. Well, parents and kids are sitting in a room. Kids break into hysterical laughter, and one of the moms is kind of like, well, what are they laughing about? Like, what's so funny? Are the kids laughing about the joke that person XY just told us? Well, yeah, do the kids laugh about the joke? Doesn't really make sense, because you hardly ever ask a person if he or she on a regular basis laughs about jokes. It's just a sentence that doesn't make any sense or that makes hardly any sense in real life. Like, I would always, if you're unsure about tenses, maybe not so present tenses, because they're quite easy, quite straightforward, but it gets more complicated when it comes to, I don't know, present perfect versus present perfect progressive and past tenses and so on and so forth. I would probably also give the whole thing a thought and make sure that it makes sense in real life, that the whole concept, would be applicable as a sentence. Do the kids laugh about the joke? Doesn't really, like, you would never say that, or you would hardly ever say that sentence. Sentence number 9, Latin, French. At the moment, I blank study Latin and French, but I not to like it really.
Marco already wrote, I'm studying. I'm studying and don't like. Also, Michael wrote already.
Good.
And
well,
don't like.
There's nothing to contradict here. I am studying. Again, be careful about the spelling of the whole thing. Study.
That's perfect.
Studying keeps or retains the Y, so some people will come up with a great idea to just delete it because Y and an I is a bit strange, but here in this case you need it. But I'm pretty sure at some stage there will be a stream about punctuation and spelling rules and so on and so forth. But I don't like it really. I would go for the abbreviated form, because we're assuming that it's oral exams, so it's either do not like it or I don't like it really. So, well, I don't know what's there not to like about Latin and French, but in my example sentence, the person doesn't. At the moment, I am studying Latin and French. You have to, because there's big exams in Latin and French, but I don't like it really. So there would be things that you would more like to do, but then you're stuck with Latin and French kind of thing. Okay, the next one. Oh, there's the 2 last ones. I hope the gentlemen like football for the last sentence. Sentence number 10 first, not jumping the gun here. One of the biggest problems in Austria, blank, the fact that the unemployment rate, blank, all the time.
And in the meantime, we, thumb Russell.
We explain what unemployment rate is. I just say something so that I don't have to. Unemployment, you probably know the word, to be employed by someone, angestellt sein bei, so educated guess on the unemployment rate is the level of the number of people who don't work in a country. Arbeitslosenratequote, something like that. One of the biggest problems in Austria.
Yeah, Michael wrote is and is rising.
How did he spell the is rising?
Correct.
They are such good kids. Let me see if
I'm not sure if they are really kids.
Well, no, probably not. But question is, there's no discussion for the first part of the sentence. One of the biggest problems in Austria is the fact, can't get any more obvious. We have fact and everything and problems. That the unemployment rate rises all the time. Would that be possible as well? Rises, question mark, rises, question mark.
What do you think? Out there in the chat, somewhere at home.
In front of...
Gin tonic.
Stop that. So is rising is definitely correct. The question is rises or would rises be possible as well? That is the big question. If you think about what I told you earlier, you get 5 more seconds because more like longer and I'm gonna die of a heat stroke. So yes, answer to the question, rises would be possible as well. The thing is that it is a more detached approach, so you're kind of conveying that the whole unemployment thing either does not interest you or it doesn't affect you. The unemployment rate rises all the time is a fact that you read in the newspaper and you're kind of like reproducing the information. Is rising is more kind of like, well, you know, it's a problem. Adding some emotion to the whole thing. If you use rises, it's kind of more this newspaper factual kind of knowledge, but it would be possible. So both versions are right. Last sentence. Manchester United, I hope nobody is Manchester fan here. Manchester United, so once upon a time they were the best football team in England. It's been a while. Manchester United have problems in the league at the moment since Ferguson left. That was the ex-coach. They play really badly.
Okay, Marco wrote is having and are playing.
I probably have to agree with that.
And Michael wrote has and are playing. And wrote in brackets have been playing.
Ah, well, yeah, of course. He's jumping the gun on the grammar here. Was it present perfect or present perfect progressive?
Progressive.
Okay. Whoa. Correct, of course. So the did he use it in the play section or in the have section?
Have been playing.
Okay. Since Ferguson left, they have been playing really badly. He is correct because, as you probably know, the present perfect progressive is something that started in the past, is going on in the present, and will highly likely continue in the future as well. Football results are kind of predictable, like looking at the league table of the Premier League in England, will give, like, you can basically tell that they will have problems in the future as well. So have been playing is of course correct, but as this is about present tenses, we can make it a little more simple, I guess. Since Ferguson left, they are playing. I would say are playing, or I would give are playing the preference to play, but then play would be possible as well if you are not really into football or if you are not really into Manchester United. Happens. Again, since Ferguson left, they are playing is kind of, okay, you are upset about it because you're a Man U fan. If you say they play, then it's kind of, well, you read that in the league table and you're kind of like, well, yeah, don't care. I don't like Manchester anyway. Manchester United is having or has, same holds true here. You could also say are having because it is a football team, and here it's always a question about plural or singular, but I'm pretty sure that there's a stream on that as well. So you either see them as a team, as we do here, Manchester United is, or you see them as individual players, and then you would be Manchester United are having, but that's, I guess, more up to preference, personal preference than anything else. Same holds true for police and so on and so forth. But I'm pretty sure that there's a stream on that as well. Good. I think that was it from my side. If there are any questions, please let me know. I'll be back at some stage, so you can also ask me then. I hope I could shed some light on the present tenses. I think what is important for your purposes is especially the point that you use the ing forms for expressing exceptions. I'm quite glad that I could think of the word. Exceptions or anger. I think that is something that you can use in your exams. Your exams are oral. You have a lot of topics where you can express anger, especially environment and all the social cultural topics, poverty and so on and so forth. There is definitely some usage for ing forms because you express concern, you express or you want to show that you're upset about something, and also the exception to the rule kind of thing. Present simple, easy, very straightforward. For stuff that concerns yourself, like your biography, your daily habits, and so on and so forth. In any case, I wish you a great Monday evening. See you soon. Goodbye.